Mr. Hubbard,
Yes,
are you ready to go on the record?
I am ready.
Okay, let's go on the record.
Okay, one moment. Okay, we are on the record.
Okay, I call case 22E-0064 and 22-G-0065, proceeding on motion of the Commission as to the rates, charges, rules, and regulations of Consolidated Edison Company of New York, Inc. for electric and gas service. Good afternoon. We're here today for a public statement hearing that was noticed on February 28, 2022. Consolidated Edison Company of New York, Inc., which I will refer to as Con Edison from now on, filed amendments to its electric and gas tariff schedules on January 28, 2022, proposing to increase its annual electric and gas delivery revenues effective January 1st, 2023. Con Edison proposes to increase its electric delivery revenues by approximately $1.2 billion, a 17.6% increase in base delivery revenues, or an 11.2% increase in total revenues. And it proposes to increase its natural gas delivery revenues by approximately $500 million, which would be a 28.1% increase in base delivery revenues, or an 18.2% increase in total revenues. Under New York state law, the Public Service Commission must consider a utility's proposal and may adopt or reject it in whole or in part, or it may modify it. We are holding these hearings so you can provide your comments on these proposals for the Commission's consideration. My name is James Costello. I am an administrative law judge for the Department of Public Service, and with me today is Administrative Law Judge Ashley Moreno, also from the Department of Public Service, and together we are responsible for presiding over the hearings in these cases and the development of a complete record in these proceedings. The Public Service Commission will decide what Con Edison's terms and conditions of service will be. The Public Service Commission has 7 members, the chairperson Rory Christian, and 6 commissioners. The 6 commissioners are Diane Berman, James Alessi, Tracy Edwards, John Howard, David Valesky, and John Majori. And we are fortunate this afternoon to have Commissioner Majori with us. And I'd ask Commissioner Majori if you'd like to address the participants.
Thank you very much, Judge. I am here to listen today. I am very appreciative of everybody who has shown up virtually to comment. As a commissioner, I find the public comments very important in my considerations, and I know that my colleagues do as well. So you're not going to hear from me today, but please know that I am paying close attention to what everyone has to say. And I, again, appreciate you for coming out. And Judge, thank you very much. That's all I'm going to say today.
Thank you, Commissioner. So what I'll do now is explain the process that we're going to follow today. As I stated earlier, the purpose of this hearing is to provide you with an opportunity to allow the Commission to know your thoughts on Con Edison's rate proposals. And the statements you make today will become part of the case record. We have a court reporter joining us who will prepare a transcript of the hearing, which will be included in the official record of this proceeding so that your comments can be considered by the members of the Commission. When the transcript is ready, it will be made available for viewing on the Department of Public Service website. This hearing is not an evidentiary hearing or a question and answer session, but a forum to hear comments from you. This is not the only opportunity you have to make comments. If you did not pre-register to speak at today's hearing, but you would like your views included in the record, there are a variety of other ways to comment that were listed in the public notice for today's event. And briefly, if you're signing in electronically, you can see the information on your screen, and I'm just going to summarize it briefly. It's you can submit comments on the department's website, by email, regular mail, or by telephone. And regardless of how the comments are submitted, the comments will be given equal consideration. And those comments, all your comments may be submitted and will be considered throughout the pendency of this proceeding. If you have registered to make a statement, we ask that you please summarize any lengthy written statements orally and submit the full written statement by email or mail. And because of the number of people who registered to speak this afternoon, we also ask that you try to stay within a 3-minute time limit for your oral comments. There are people who registered to speak today that are participating electronically, and people who registered and are participating by telephone. In either case, I want to remind you to have only audio input from one device. Otherwise, we may experience problems with feedback. And I will call the persons that have pre-registered one by one to speak. If someone is not available, when I call them, we will continue with the next person and come back to those people who are not available at the end. For telephone participants, when I call out your name, I will ask that you hit *3 on your telephone so that we can recognize you and unmute your line. It may take us a while to locate you and unmute your line, so please make sure to wait until you hear either a beep or are notified that your line has been unmuted before you speak. And if you have muted your own telephone, you also will have to unmute your line on your end. For the people who registered electronically, after we call your name, we will unmute your line. You should hear a tone and see that the microphone icon on your screen is no longer red. And I remind you that if you put your telephone line on mute, you will also have to unmute that line before you begin to speak. We're going to start by calling on the members of the public who have registered to speak, and then we will move to individuals who have registered to speak who are also parties to this proceeding. As parties, the parties have greater privileges and opportunities to build the record in this proceeding, and as a result, we ask that you summarize any lengthy comments and submit them in writing. I remind you to please speak slowly and clearly so that the court reporter can accurately capture your statement for the record. When your line is unmuted, please state your name. You can provide spelling if it's a difficult name, and also I invite our court reporter to interrupt if he needs the spelling of any names. And if you are speaking on behalf of an organization, also provide the name of the organization and spelling if necessary. Once we confirm that we can hear you, you can proceed to make your comments. So I'm going to turn to the first speaker that we have listed, which is Assembly Member, and I apologize in advance to anyone whose name I mispronounce. I'm looking for Assembly Member Niley Rosick.
Judge, I do not see anyone by that name registered.
Okay, and if you have, just before we move on, if you have called in, and you please hit *3 if you are Niley Rosick, and we can unmute your line. No, not seeing any. We're going to move on, and I'll come back to that. The names, like I said earlier, will come back after we go through the list. Brian Barnwell, Assembly Member Brian Barnwell.
Yep. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just spoke to Ms. Rosick, and I think she was stuck in a meeting, so she'll be logging on later. But I'll make my comments quick. Thank you again. I'm just going to say it flat out. I don't think under any circumstances Con Ed should, this requested hike should be approved. The customers have really suffered enough. The constituents have suffered enough. We constantly receive calls about their bills already as it is. I believe it's around $2 billion in arrears right now. Obviously, people coming out of the pandemic, they suffered a great deal. I think it's about 1 million or so individuals across the area. And I think an independent audit is warranted here. I think it can highlight a great deal of how Con Ed can make up some funding here. And to be very frank, last time I looked, the board of Con Ed, each individual makes $1 million a piece. I think the CEO makes $9 million. And while Con Ed can certainly compensate how they choose, I think it's a little unfair to then turn around to the people of New York and ask them to approve a rate hike. I think that they should lead by example almost in a way, and I don't see that happening. Their stock is at 90, give or take, depending on the day. while I actually, funny enough, I actually invested in Con Edison when I was in high school. When I was 18, I invested in Con Edison. I think it was at 45 at that point. And while stocks come and go, and it depends on a lot of different things, it's obviously in good shape right now, the stock. So with all that in mind, I think, again, to turn around and then ask the customers to pay for this increase before anything on their own, I think is unjust. So I thank you for your time. I know there'll be a lot of other speakers talking about this issue and other issues kind of that go into that all come into interplay on this. And I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we turn to the next speaker, I have noticed that the chairperson of the commission has joined us on the telephone, and I just want to invite the chair if he wants to make a comment to the participants.
I'd like the chair to please hit *3 so I could recognize the telephone number.
His name is, he's logged in under his name. It's under Rory Christian.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Chair.
afternoon. Thank you for that opportunity to speak. I want to echo Commissioner Majori and thank you all for putting this together. I'm looking forward to hearing the comments from all participants and taking them in consideration. Public voice is very important in understanding the needs and their perception of this rate case, and we'll do our best as a commission to take those into account and consideration when making our decisions. So thank you everyone for being here today. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments, and please, let's proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Our next speaker is Zoran Mamdani, Assembly Member Zoran Mamdani. I do not see the name listed, so if you are calling in on a telephone, you'd have to hit *3 so that we can identify you and unmute your line. Okay, not seeing anything. We'll go to Mohammed Ali.
I just unmuted a caller that had their hand raised.
Okay.
Hi. This is Assembly Member Zoran Mamdani. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak at this hearing. This is an issue of immense concern to me, to my office, and to the residents of Northwest Queens in the district that I represent, of Astoria, Ditmar, Steinway, and parts of Astoria Heights. This is the #1 phone call that we've been receiving in our office and from constituents over the last few months is around the question of Con Ed. As my colleague Brian Barnwell stated earlier, the existing rates are already extremely unaffordable for my constituents. And in Astoria, we already have so many stories of tenants who are being priced out by rent increases. Now Con Ed lives in the same category as that, where people have told me that because of the skyrocketing rates in their Con Ed bills, they're not sure if they're going to be able to continue living in our neighborhood. And the idea that we could raise those rates even further and that the state could sanction the raising of those rates, to me, is unconscionable. And so I speak up today to represent really the voices of my constituents in advocating that the PSC should wholeheartedly reject Con Ed's rate hike request. And the only plan that I believe the PSG should ever approve is to lower current gas and electric rates. There are many additional aspects to get into, which my colleague Brian Barnwell also spoke about in terms of just the amount of compensation that Con Ed executives receive. And I think there's also more to be said about how Con Ed wants to spend this money over the next 5 years, further investing into fossil fuel facilities, which, in addition to making things even more unaffordable for my constituents, would also condemn us to a future that is completely out of step with what the IPCC reports have been saying we need to do in order to avert the worst possible outcomes of the climate crisis. So for all those reasons and many more, I call upon the PSC to reject this, and I can tell you that this if these rates are approved, it will be the difference in forcing many, many of my constituents out of Astoria, out of the place that they call home, simply because they cannot afford it anymore. Thank you so much.
Excuse
you.
me. This is the court reporter. Can I get the spelling of this person's name, please?
Yes, absolutely. My first name is Zoran. That's Zohran. The last letter being N as in Nancy. My last name is Mamdani. That's M as in Mary, A as in Apple, M as in Mary, D as in dog, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, I as in India.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Mohammed Ali, and if you're calling in, please hit *3 so that we can recognize you and unmute your line.
Judge, I do not see any raised hands.
Okay, I do not as well. We'll go on to Christina Smith. And
Hello,
Lady
everyone.
Ms. Smith?
Hello?
Yes, we can
Can
hear
you
you.
hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. First, I want to thank the two gentlemen that spoke before me and just make a statement that Con Edison does not have rates. According to the bills that we receive, what they have is some percentage that's based on the stock market or something like that. They don't have rates. They make it impossible. My sister receives an income of $858, and because of these rates, she was charged 18 point something percent of, which came out to $602 on an income of $858. This should not be approved. And not to mention the supply, what they actually give her is less than the delivery charges. Con Edison owns the lines. So I don't understand. This should not be approved under any circumstances. They get enough. They can make it work. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Zack Cofales. And again, I apologize if I mispronounced anybody's name today. If you are participating by telephone, please hit *3.
Judge, I do not see. Oh, I'm sorry. I do see a Callin user. One moment. I'm going to unmute them.
Yeah.
Caller, you've been unmuted.
If your line is muted, you may have to unmute your own line as well to be heard. Okay, we do not hear you. So what we're going to do is move on to the next speaker, who we have listed as Joshua Praler. And if you're calling in, please hit *3.
I do not see any raised hands.
Okay, then we will go to our next speaker, who is Angela Russell. And if you are a call-in user, please hit *3. Okay, I do not see anybody. We'll go on to Alicia Boyd.
I do not see, Your Honor.
Okay. If you're calling in, please hit *3. No, I still do not see anything. So we'll go on to Clive Fernando. If you are calling in, please hit *3.
Judge, I do not see any new raised hands.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to Mary Hultman. If you are a call-in user, please hit *3 so we can identify you and unmute your line.
Judge, again, no new raised hands.
Okay, thank you. Deborah Potter. If you are a call-in user, you have to hit *3. Otherwise, I don't see anyone. So we'll move on to Yakov Sasson. And if you are a call-in user, hit *3 so we can identify you.
Your Honor, I do not see any new raised hands.
Okay, thank you. Herbert Ramos.
Hello?
Mr. Ramos,
You hear me?
is this Mr. Ramos?
Yes, it is.
I can hear you. You can proceed. Just state your name for the record and you can give your statement.
Okay. I really didn't take any notes, but name is Herbert Ramos. I'm currently a resident and a homeowner on Bronx, New York, Pelham Gardens. Thank you for accepting us to do this hearing. And I'm basically disgusted with Con Edison as far as raising the rates. They just keep going up, and the services just keeps getting worse and worse. I mean, we're in an area here where my power just constantly goes out for no reason whatsoever. Ever since Sandy, it's gotten worse. We had the snowstorm the other day. No power outage. Storm was over. All of a sudden, power went out. You call Con Ed. Oh, it's a grid, or it's a transformer, or it's always happening and no credit. We get no credit in the account. Last month, January, my bill was for $481. That's sliding gas. This month, that was January. February, it came for $431. Same thing, lighting gas. Power is constantly going out. It'll go out for an hour. It'll go out for 20 minutes. We get no credit for it. Now they're asking for rates for what? You want us to get solar panels. You want us to pay for it. It's not quite fair, especially when you're a homeowner. You're paying for taxes, real estate tax, and then the utilities on top of that, which are they've gotten worse in the last 10 years. And the raise is uncalled for. I think that's all I got about to say, and thank you very much for hearing me. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You as well. I see that Assemblymember Rosick has joined us. If we can unmute her line so she can make the statement.
Great. Thank you so much, chairs, for convening this important joint hearing and for inviting me to speak about Con Edison's proposed changes to its electric and gas delivery rates and practices, where they're requesting an additional rate hike to increase electric bills. New York consumers are already paying the highest prices for electricity and gas in the country, and I would know, as chair of consumer protection in the New York State Assembly, we hear from consumers almost every single day about this ongoing crisis. When the pandemic hit our state, many were facing and are still facing massive financial hardships paying off their bills. In 2020, the Public Service Commission approved a rate increase for Con Edison. The increase has taken effect over the last couple of years, and customers are already paying over 12% more each month for electricity in 2022 than they did in 2019. This new rate increase would unreasonably burden ratepayers who already pay some of the highest rates in the country. Coupled with recent gas prices, which I'm sure you've read about, That has caused Con Edison bills to be 2 or 3 times more in just a few short months for many, many countless individuals, many of my constituents. If these new rate hikes are approved, then it will be impossible for residents to afford their utilities, essentially exacerbating the current situation, along with creating a crisis of a different kind. Con Edison needs to explain, first and foremost, why New York families and communities should bear the disproportionate burden. Furthermore, I just want to say in an overarching way, this plan is not in line with meeting the state's goals for energy efficiency and demand reduction. Con Edison's rate increase would dig us deeper into a climate crisis. And so I hope for those reasons, the commission will really hear the voices of New Yorkers, many of whom are testifying today and next week, who are tired of this disservice and instead really focus on ways in which New York can transition to a clean and renewable energy. Until then, and taken as a whole, this proposed rate hike should be rejected. And I just want to say thank you again for this opportunity to testify on behalf of New York consumers.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Anna IV Kosic, IV Kosic. If you are participating by telephone, please hit *3 so that we can recognize you and unmute your line.
Judge, I do not see any new raised hands.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to Sanja Gabrielson or Gabrielson.
Judge, I do not see any new raised hands.
Okay. Our next speaker then will be Stephen Imrisek, Imrisek. If you are participating by telephone, please hit *3. Not seeing anybody?
No, I'm not seeing anyone, Judge.
Okay. We'll go to Doreen Dixon. Doreen Dixon, if you were calling in, please hit *3. Okay,
Judge,
we're
I
going
do
to
not see that.
move on to Patricia Boyle.
Ms. Boyle, your line's been unmuted.
Hello, my name is Patricia Boyle. My thing is that me and my husband are both on disability, and our bill is like $150 a month. It's very hard to pay that when you're on disability. So I don't think that the rate should be increased. And that's all I really have to say. I just wanted to voice my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Our next speaker is Maria Lugo. And if you're participating by telephone, please hit *3 so that we can identify you.
Judge, I do not see anyone with their raised hands, and I do not see the person's name.
Okay, thank you. Maria Lugo, Oneida Bautista. Oneida Bautista, if you are on the line and are participating by telephone, please hit *3.
Judge, again, no one has raised a hand, and I do not see the participant's name on our list.
Thank you. Annabelle Dumad, Doumad. Not seeing anything. Tahila Eisenberg. If you're calling in, hit *3.
Yeah.
I do not see anyone by that on our panelist list, on our attendees list. My apologies.
All right, our next speaker would be Aliaida Peralta. If you're calling in, hit *3.
No new raised hands, Judge.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Charles Harold. If you're attending by telephone, Mr. Harold, please hit *3.
Judge, I do not see anyone raising their hands.
Thank you. Rosanna Valeriati. If you are participating by telephone, please hit *3. I'm not seeing anybody. We'll go to Sandy Page.
Judge, I do
Participating
not
by
see.
telephone. Okay. Hit *3. I don't see anyone either. There's somebody with, I don't know if this is somebody, Tricia Boyle, just ask that you please mute your line.
Sure.
Okay, Daniel Bennett, B-E-N-N-E-T-T. And if you're participating by phone, please hit *3. Not seeing anyone. We'll go on to Rick White. And if you're calling in, *3 so we can identify you, hit *3.
I am not seeing any new raised hands, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Stacy Hauk, H-O-U-L-K. If you're a call-in user, please hit *3.
Again, Judge.
Thank you. Rachel Bailey Johnson. Not seeing anyone. I'm going to move on to Thomas John.
Mr. John, your line has been unmuted.
Thank you.
Mr. John, you're going in and out. I'm sorry. I can't hear you very well right now.
Let me cut down. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to thank the commission for this hearing and for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to say that through the years, I've noticed that Con Edison prices have increased, their rates have increased, and especially during storms, thunderstorms, and snowstorms, I've noticed that there have been power outages in my neighborhood, and there's no follow-up for that ever. There's no indication of we're going to be there at some point later or to fix the issues or to address the issues. Especially in the last big snowstorm we had a power outage in this area, and it was at 5 p.m. in the evening I had the outage, and I had no indication of anybody coming up to fix the issue. So basically I slept in my house without any heat, no power, no anything. So 11 a.m. the next day, they indicated that they'll be by to address the issue and hopefully fix the problem. And that was the last straw for me. So I don't think they deserve any rate increases. I don't think they need to charge any more money because like one of your other previous contributors said, that there's no credit given back to the customers for the outages for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is. I'm still being charged for that. So they have no responsibility on their end to take care of their customers, even though they send out like 10 emails saying, we're covered for this storm, don't worry, we'll be there to address any issues. What's the point of that if they're not here? I don't see any logic in that. So I don't think they deserve to increase their rates at all. And the people of New York have suffered enough for years and years under the monopoly of Con Edison to pay whatever it is they ask. And I think they're sick of it. It's time for them to be audited, especially with the fact that they give all their employees unbelievable salaries for poor service and customer service. So they do not deserve it. And I hope the commission denies the right to increase their rates. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you, you too. Could we unmute call-in user 16 just to make sure whether the person is someone who we called earlier?
Call-in user, your line has been unmuted.
Is there a person on the line who is making a statement here today? No, okay.
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I just ask you to hit *3 on your phone? Okay, our next speaker is Sara Noda.
Call-in user, your line's been unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
We're looking for Sara Noda. And it looks like we have some people that have raised their hands who are not the people that we're calling right now. So what I'm going to do is finish going through our list, and then we'll get to the people who are raising their hands that we have now. So it's calling user 16, 20, and 6. We will get to you after we call in the names that we have. Right now we're looking for Sara Noda. Okay, not seeing him. Yes. Sean Field. And Mr. Field, if you're calling in by telephone, please hit *3. Okay, Jeremy Davidson. Christian Velez. If you are a call-in user, please hit *3. Okay, not seeing anyone. Daniel Cermeno. It's Cermeno. If you're calling on, please hit *3. Sacha Larosiliere. It's Larosiliere. If you're calling in, please hit *3. All right, we'll move on to the next person, Elena Gutierrez.
Yes, hello. Good
Hello.
afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I just want to say that I'm a resident of Kew Gardens and have lived in what you would call, I guess, a new development, new construction. And with these increases, and I've been here for just about a year, I've seen about almost 300% increase in my bill over the last year. Of course, during the winter months, those numbers have gone up higher. I've seen my bill go up to $600. I'm a single female, middle income earner, and it makes it difficult even for someone at the middle income level. You know, I agree with the previous contributors in their comments about rejecting the increase and forcing residents or pushing residents out of their communities due to these increases. That is all for today. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to Dan Opp, OPP. If you're a call-in user, please hit, oh, I see you're on electronic user, so we'll unmute your line. Okay, you can go ahead and state your name for the record and make your statement.
Sure. Yes, my name is Daniel Opp. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. You know, I would just echo the comments many people have already made that the utility bills in this area of the country are already outrageously high. My wife and I have a single family home in Westchester, 1,500 square feet, so by no means a palace. And our average utility bill this winter was over $600 a month. You know, I honestly, it stretches the imagination to think that, you know, anything beyond that is justified or would be affordable for most people. In addition to that, every bill has what's called a monthly rate adjustment. That is pretty much an arbitrary number determined by Con Ed that is not tied to rates or to usage whatsoever. The bills used to say that it was due to variations in weather. I'm curious how that number is calculated. You know, what Con Ed determines is, you know, the baseline for expected weather, considering, you know, the climate is warming and the generally expected usage for heating is going to go down over time. Meanwhile, my bills keep going up, largely in part because this monthly rate adjustment is billed to me whether I'm using the you know, gas or not. To put specifics on it, I have been charged cumulatively $200 by Con Ed over the last 2 years just in monthly rate adjustments. And again, that is not for you know, commodity costs. It is not for my usage at all. It is an arbitrary figure determined by Con Ed and billed to me, you know, with no accountability from Con Ed or, you know, any opportunity for me to dispute what I consider to be an unjustified charge. So I'm just taking this opportunity to raise that concern now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I just want to ask if you'll unmute Chair Christian's line for 1 second. I see he has his hand raised. I just want to make sure we check in with him.
Yeah, I'd raised my hand earlier, so.
Okay, it's just remaining. Okay, thank you. Okay, our next speaker will be Elzelia Johnson. I believe she's an electronic user.
Judge, forgive me, I'm having some technical difficulty. It's not allowing me to unmute her.
Okay. All right, we'll have to circle back then. I apologize if you're on the line. We're having trouble unmuting you at this time. Maria Rose Randazzo. If you are participating by telephone, please hit *3 so we can identify you.
I'm not seeing any new raised hands.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Natia Gonzalez. It's Naysagolzalez. If you are participating by telephone, please hit *3 so we can recognize you and unmute your line.
I'm not seeing any new raised hands.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go on and take statements. We have 2 more people that are signed up. They are parties to the proceeding. We will take their statement, and then I'm going to circle back, and people that I called earlier who were not available, and before I get to them, I'll ask people too who have their hands raised who they are and if they're going to make a statement. But we'll circle back after our next 2 commentators. So I call Richard Berkley.
Thank you, Judge, and apologies. I was trying to unmute myself. So thank you, of course, Commissioners Maggiore and Chair Christian and Administrative Law Costello and members of the public. My name is Richard Berkley. I'm the Executive Director of the Public Utility Law Project of New York. We are a 40-year-old nonprofit, and we educate, advocate, and litigate on behalf of New York's low-income utility customers. We're an active party in the Con Edison rate cases. We'll be filing numerous bits of expert testimony in May and in June. But I want to start talking now by acknowledging how Con Ed's customers are doing. The company's own collections reports show that over 400,000 customers are behind 60 days or more on their bills for a total of $840 million. It's imperative that the Department of Public Service staff and subsequently the Commission provide for and undertake a deep review of Con Ed's rate filing, as any degree of increase will have long-lasting financial effects on customers in New York City already struggling to pay their bills, as we'll discuss now quickly. This revenue increase, or rate increase that Con Ed is looking for, is huge. It's historically huge, and its impact is worsened by the continuing bill surge, the continuing economic harms of COVID, and increased costs from rent increases, supply chain issues affecting food, and everything people need to live their lives in Con Ed's territory in New York City and Westchester. Con Ed is seeking $1.7 billion in increased charges and double-digit increases in electric delivery rates and gas delivery rates, 18% and over 28% respectively. For perspective, in its last case, it saw only $695 million increases, or roughly 1/3 of what it's asking for in this case, and less than half of the increases in electric and delivery. Same thing in 2016, the company asked for less than 1/3 and less than half of the increases it's asking for now, in one of the objectively worst economic situations for New York City residents in 100 years. Con Edison is also asking for the highest return on equity, which people normally call profit. They're asking for the highest return on equity of any company in a very long time. And that is in contrast to 8.8% return on equity it got in the last case. So simply put, because I will turn in our written comments later, Con Edison is asking for a tremendous amount of money. It is unaffordable already for customers in New York City. The increase will make it more unaffordable. It will drive more people into persistent poverty. And there are a number of things that Pulp is going to oppose in this case. And, quite honestly, looking at it from here before all the testimony goes in, it's hard to imagine why any resident of New York City and any elected official in New York City shouldn't oppose this rate case. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lee Zish.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you so much, Judge Costello and the commissioners who are listening today, as well as every single member of the public who took time to speak. I know these aren't always the easiest things to attend, but your voices are so important. My name's Lee Zishi. I'm an organizer with Sane Energy Project. We are a party to the case and have been hearing from many of our members across downstate New York who are already struggling to pay their Con Ed bills. So we absolutely oppose any rate hike at all and are asking for department staff and New York State to really step up and fight for the average customer right now who is struggling. Unfortunately, the last 10 years of rate hikes have not served customers well at all. We have been subsidizing, and the reason we are going into debt is mostly for fossil fuel projects. The previous rate hike that was approved in 2020 did not comply with our state law and invested almost $1 billion every year, extending and expanding the life of dirty fossil fuel infrastructure. And Con Ed has claimed that, this case is different, that it's not business as usual, but unfortunately, that's a lot more greenwashing. Con Ed wants to spend over $70 million investing in their liquefied frac gas storage facility in Astoria, over $60 million in their gas generating facility in Lower Manhattan, and hundreds of millions of dollars every year on bigger and newer pipelines. And, we cannot change the last 10 years, unfortunately, but we must start today absolutely going in the right direction. New Yorkers are exhausted about going into debt. And then when they learn about what they're going into debt for, these dirty fossil fuel projects, they're absolutely outraged. In Brooklyn right now, National Grid customers have been forced to join a gas bill strike. Unfortunately, because the Public Service Commission approved money for the North Brooklyn pipeline. And people are not taking that anymore. It's so clear that climate change is here. I mean, so much of Con Ed's proposal is about, responding to climate change and trying to ensure that the gas infrastructure can still be safe and reliable. But there's just no way that that can happen. Gas is not safe, and it is absolutely fueling the climate crisis. And it's been very disappointing to see both Con Ed and the Public Service Commission kind of throw up their hands with these high gas costs we've been seeing, because this is exactly what we predicted would happen for the last 10 years if we kept spending billions of dollars hooking up new customers to gas and building up pipelines. So I'm just asking the Public Service Commission and Governor Hochul, please stand with New Yorkers. We can't physically afford this, our climate can't afford it, and no one can financially afford it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. What I'm going to do now is just ask that we go through, there are now four call-in users, and I just want to go through them. We'll start with call-in user 16. You can unmute that line. There's a person calling in that, did you want to make a comment? You can remute that line, remute the line. And what I'm going to do is just go down the list of people who I called earlier and give them an opportunity, if they've joined late, to make their statement. So I'll start with Mohammed Ayet, A-Y-E-T. If you are calling in on the telephone, and this goes for everyone, if you're calling in on the telephone and you've signed up to make a statement, I'll give you the opportunity to do that. You have to hit *3. After we go through that, if there's anyone who is calling in and wants to make a statement who has not signed up, we'll allow you to do that. So right now, Mohammed Ayet, if you are calling in, please hit *3.
No one new has raised their hand.
Thank you. Zack Cofales, and I apologize for the pronunciation if I'm mispronouncing. Please hit *3 if you're making a statement today.
No new raised hands.
Thank you. Joshua Praylor.
No new raised hands, Judge.
Okay. Then we'll go to Angela Russell. If you're calling in, *3. Alicia Boyd. Seeing any? Clive Fernando. Moving on to Mary Holtman. Deborah Potter. Yakov Sason. Anna IV Kosic. Sonja Gabrielson. Stephen Emersick. Doreen Dixon. Maria Lugo. Oniata Bautista. Not seeing anybody. Annabelle Dumad, D-O-U-M-A-D. Tahila Eisenberg. Aliida Peralta. Charles Harold. Rosiana Valeriati. Sandy Page. Daniel Bennett. Rick White. Stacy Hulk. Rachel Bailey Johnson. Sara Noda. Sean Field.
Judge, I do see Sean Field on the line. I'm unmuting him now.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Field. You may make your statement.
Thank you. So in December 2020, I was overcharged by $532 for a 1-month bill, and I've been trying ad nauseum for over a year to get anyone at Con Edison to go through this. I have over 2.5 years of records. There's been no spike in my usage. And no one has been able to contact me in it over a year and a half. But instead, I just received a disconnection notice where I had to sign an agreement to pay off a back balance that is not owed to me. I'm seeing that things like this are happening, and then rate increases happened during the pandemic, which was an explanation that I got for a small increase in my bill. And it's a little sad because my building is 100 years old and we have huge problems. Right now, outside of our building, we have Con Edison dug up the ground, ran some cables underneath our building, across our sidewalk, and every single day you have to walk over some wooden structure that's there in order for us just to walk on our sidewalk, and no one's ever come back to fix these issues. So, you know, I love the fact that we're having this hearing, but I would really love to know that something is actually being done, and that people aren't strong-armed into these positions where our lives are affected. If you have a baby in a stroller and you're walking on my sidewalk right now, it's a problem. If you're like me, 37 other residents got a 400% increase in their bill in December 2020 with no one being able to explain why. And we've had no one person in Con Edison, not a manager or anyone, get in contact with us. I've personally myself called January, February, March, April of last month, 4 months in a row, and was told that the department that handles this is closed and that someone would get back in touch with me. I then contacted Con Edison again from September until December, when I finally ended up getting a notice in January about a disconnection, but yet still not one single person has been able to contact me. I've waited on hold for an hour in the system. I've used the callback line. The only thing I haven't done is actually walked inside of a building, which unfortunately I can't because I'm recovering from cancer surgery and I'm trying to work every single day and provide for myself and my family. So I appreciate the hearing, but what I would love to have coming out of this hearing is some sort of action, some sort of, you know, just communication, something that makes life, after especially the last 2 years and the difficulties we've all faced, be, you know, a little bit of caring and attention to detail. That's pretty much all I have to say. I see that I've got about 20 seconds left, and I just thank you all for your time putting this together and giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Field. You may want to get in touch with the Office of Consumer Services. There's a helpline for the Department of Public Service. If you have access to the internet, you can find that information on the website. And we have a few people from the Office of Consumer Services on the line. If they have any contact information that they can provide for Mr. Field, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Field, I have an 800 number that you can call, and this is for the Department of Public Service. It's 1-800-342-3377.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good luck.
Okay,
Okay, the next person is Jeremy Davidson. If you're calling in, please hit *3. Christian Velez. Daniel Cermeno. Satya Larosiliere, and it's Larosiliere. And Elzelia Johnson, I don't know if you're still on. I know you're electronic. You're no longer an electronic user, but if you did try to call in and you still want to make a statement, you could hit *3 so we can identify you. Okay, Maria.
Ms. Gutierrez, my
Yes.
apologies, Judge. Ms. Gutierrez has been unmuted, and she muted herself again. So if she can unmute her on her end.
Which person? Elena Gutierrez, I believe. Didn't she not already make her statement?
I did, yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
My apologies.
If you have made a statement and you're calling in by phone, if you hit *3 again, if you've already hit *3, that will take you off of our list so that we don't have to keep asking you. Then I have Maria Rose Rendazzo, Nesa Gonzalez, and then we'll try again with caller user 16. You'll hear your line being unmuted. If you have a statement, you can state your name and indicate what your statement is.
Calling user 16, your line has been unmuted.
And if your line is muted on your end, you also have to unmute that as well. Okay, not hearing anything, I'm going to move on to call-in user 20.
Hello.
Hello, could you state your name? And if you're going to be making a statement, you can make your statement. Hello? No? Okay, and before we end things today, if there's anyone who's calling in or who would like to make a statement, I'm just going to open up the opportunity now. So if you're calling in, hit *3. And if you're an electronic user, you can use the raise hand function.
We have a call-in user, and we'll unmute them.
Okay, I see. Are we doing call-in user 23? Yes.
This is calling user 23, correct, Your Honor.
Do you wish to make a statement?
Yes.
Okay, please state your name and then you can give your statement.
Yeah, I am Myla Bravo, and I'm a single mom, and my mother, who is 83 years old, is also living with me. And I was just shocked with the bill that Con Ed has thrown on me, and their excuse is always the winter. But actually, during the winter, we haven't really used our unit because we've tried to save energy as much as we can. But then our bill still went up to $483 just for 1 month, and it was really a shocking bill that I've never had. And, you know, if they increase the rate, at least they could have, you know, tell the consumer that they increased it. It's not just like, you know, increasing it without for any reason, or if it's pandemic, but it's just too much. It's 5 times or even 10 times of the rate. And it's just not fair, especially for a consumer like me, who is a single mom and living and you know, and a mother, a senior mother living with me. So I really appreciate that this hearing, and you know, we're able to voice out our concerns about this, because it can't move on like this. It's just impossible for a middle income people to survive. And thank you so much.
Excuse me. Excuse me. This is a court reporter. I need the spelling of both names, please.
Yeah, Myla, M-Y-L-A, Bravo, B-R-A-V-O.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll go on to call-in user 20. Your line has been unmuted. If you could state your name, and if you wish to give a statement, please make your statement.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Vincent Malfitano. Did you hear that?
Yes. You may have to
good.
spell it for the court reporter.
I will. Just a couple of things. I've been a Con Ed user for more than 50 years in Westchester County. This is my first time participating in anything like this. I only bring that up to try to highlight the seriousness of my concern as a homeowner, and as the other folks have said, trying to get by on a pension and a small teacher's pension and Social Security with my family. My Con Ed bill last month during that cold spell was $785. Now, I understand I pay for my energy. I understand it's not an easy job to do what Con Ed does. But when I look at the published rates in the newspaper that they're proposing, I looked at my bill. I used 336 therms of gas during that bill that I told you about. And in the published newspaper, New York Post, February 25th, they proposed rate hikes for just 300 therms. They say right now my bill should be $727. Well, it was $785. Do you know what the same bill will be next year if these rate hikes go through? $1,175. That's a 40%. That's a $400 increase for 1 month if this goes through. That's unconscionable in terms of cost. Now, I don't want to get into the politics of the failed Biden administration and all of the stupidity about shutting down pipelines and all of the insanity they're going through with everybody screaming about the climate. I get it. But we have a serious problem here. When a guy like me, who's worked his whole life, can't stay in his own house with heat. I sleep at night with a hat on and a sweater, and I only have the heat at a reasonable temperature for my wife and kids. This is an unconscionable increase. I got somebody on the phone from Con Ed and asked them to explain some things to me. And they said, of course, 2/3 of your bill is about delivery. Only 1/3 is the gas supply. Okay, I factored it out. I looked at it. I said, you mean to tell me that a lot of this increase is relating to the energy supply, not so much the delivery? Because yes, that's right. I said, well, look, I took a look at some of my bills, and it looks to me like the delivery charge just in the last 3 months has gone up 6%. And I went through it with the guy on the basis of the therms. And I said, why is that? What's causing the increase in the delivery charges of such a high amount just since December? And he tells me, and maybe I'm stupid, he says, it's the weather. I said, it's the weather? I said, doesn't gas go through pipes under the ground? Well, the weather effect, now maybe somebody smarter than me or the guy I talked to can explain that to me. But what I'm looking at here, is a massive increase in cost. You guys will grant some increase. It'll be maybe half or less, and we're supposed to declare that a victory. Well, it's not. It can't go through this way. This is unconscionable amount of money to ask people to get hit with. We're looking at a 10% inflation rate. Gas prices have doubled in the last year and a half for my car. Thank God I don't use it that much. Now, I know you guys aren't supposed to take that into consideration. And now maybe the last thing I'll just hit you with to consider. I said to the guy at Con Ed, I said, look, you guys are a monopoly when it comes to the delivery of my service, aren't you? Yes. You can shop for other supply. Okay. I said, but you're a monopoly, right? Yes. I said, why do you make donations to charities? Now, that sounds pretty hard and cold, doesn't it? He says, well, I said, you're playing with my money. So I'd like the Public Service Commission to say to Con Ed, hey, look, these are tough times. You're using other people's money to make nice corporate donations so you look good. Maybe you shouldn't do that anymore. And here's something even harder. Con Ed is talking about helping to subsidize some people who can't pay their bills. Well, what you're really asking is for me to subsidize. So I'd like the Public Service Commission to say to Con Ed, hey, look, this is a pay-as-you-go service. This isn't a social service program where some of your supposedly more well-to-do customers are going to subsidize somebody else. If my politicians want to do that with my money, that's their business. I can vote them out of office. Now, here it is, me saying these hard things. But I'm going to tell you something right now. Paying $785 for 1 month of service, and that's under the present rates. And I'm reading in the newspaper, and you can reference it, 300 therms of gas under the new bill.
We had a 3-minute time limit, and I've let you go.
Oh, I didn't know
that. That's all right. So I've just asked you to wrap it up if you can.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, look, you guys are going to do what you got to do. But just pass on to our Democratic friends, none of them will get reelected if a big hike goes through. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, this is a court reporter. Can I get the spelling of his last name, please?
Sure. The first name is Vincent. Last name is M-A-L, F as in Frank, E-T-A-N-O. Do you need my address?
No, thank you. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Okay, we'll go to call-in user 19. Your line has been unmuted. If you would like to make a statement, please state your name and you can make your statement.
Hello, my name is Deborah Rodriguez. I too live in Westchester County. I too have a smaller home that's 1,600 square feet. And last month, my bill was over $700 for gas and light. Like many other of your callers, this is ridiculous. I've lived here for more than 25 years. When I bought the house, it was a public service that I was getting. Now, the bill is more than my mortgage payment per month. And my mortgage payment is not at a floor rate. It's over 6% interest. I just cannot understand why everywhere else in the country they pay less for the same service. This cannot go through. I heat my house 62 during the day. That's from 7:30 in the morning to 9 at night. At 9 at night, I heated my house at 57 degrees. That's 5-7. And I still got a $700 bill. My house has been inspected. It's from Con Edison. All the things have been done to try to conserve energy. It's still a ridiculous, exorbitant rate. And they've done no capital improvement. I agree with the people that have called in before. We don't live in New York City. We live with big telephone poles that a breeze puts them down, and then we have no electricity with no recompense at all. Meanwhile, we have to run to the ice house if we can get it, and to keep our food okay. This has to stop. You have to not only not make this increase happen, but you have to decrease things. People at the top have to start making less, and we have to get more. This is a monopoly. When we have no choice. When the telephone company in this area was a monopoly, we paid high long-distance prices. Now they're free practically. This has to stop. You have to do something about it. We're median income people. We're not poor, but we cannot afford this, and we shouldn't have to freeze in the winter. Thank you so much for hearing us, and I really hope it doesn't go through at all. In fact, I hope you promote a decrease. They have to hurt a little bit. We've been hurting for years. Thank you again.
Excuse me, this is court reporter. Can I get a spelling of the last name, please?
It's R-O-D as in dog, R-I-G-U-E-Z.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. There were a few people on the line who had mentioned particular issues with respect to their bills. So we're going to put up on the screen some information, contact information. And I'll tell you again that you can call an 800 number for the Department of Public Service helpline, which is 1-800-342-3377. And that information, well, I'm not seeing the information on the screen, but I'll tell you the 800 number is 1-800-342-3377. I want to remind everyone that you may submit public comments throughout these proceedings by other means, as discussed earlier, and which appear on the web screen right now. And we also have other public statement hearings scheduled in these proceedings, and we will be holding them one this evening at 5 p.m. and then on March 29th and 31st, 2022 at 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. on each day. And I and Judge Moreno want to thank the commenters for their participation, and we'd like to thank Chair Christian and Commissioner Majori for being present, as well as our Consumer Services Office for administering this session. And we'd, as always, like to thank our court reporter, and we are going to go off the record.
Okay, one moment. Okay, we're off the record.
All right, thank you very much.